Oh, I'm your host, Biggie Smoke, and we are coming at you live with some action here in HRL for round 3 at Circuit de Spa Francorchamps. So we have 19 drivers on the grid, almost a full grid of 20, and that's going to be definitely a good race, all things considered. I have a feeling we might see some good drives and maybe some bad drives in this one. But the question is, who's going to come out the gate swinging with the pole time? And only the drivers can figure that one out. But now here we are. Spa-Francorchamps. Telemetry on, all 20 drivers here now. So this is the full grid that we have. And so who's going to be the first driver out to try and make a difference and try and set that baseline time that the others may have to try and beat as we wait for the first car to come out of the pits right now. I see a car coming out. In fact, a couple cars have come out. There is a Haas Klepa, going to be the first car on the field. We got a couple more coming out. AlphaTauri, it looks like, and an Aston Martin, and a Mercedes out. And there you go. Sure enough, all the cars are coming out, but the Haas looking like it's going to be the one to be setting the benchmark time in this session. And the question is, what time is it going to set? I know drivers can definitely get into the 140s, 141s here, especially with a good drive and a good lap. And the question is whether or not they can actually get into those with those laps. Now, Spa-Francorchamps, quite the historic track, all things considered. It's quite a legendary one, actually, when you really think about it. It's been around F1 since the start. It's obviously had to leave many times because Spa-Francorchamps, unfortunately, this track has been very interesting with safety. It has often missed safety marks and stuff like that, and sometimes had to leave the calendar for a couple years or even years on end, and then it would come back. But Spa-Francorchamps, of course, started out, it was a massive track, and it was actually half track, half road. The section that we know today as Eau Rouge and Raidillon basically led into a big portion, and it was a long track too. It was unlike the 7 kilometers that we have today. It was about, I think, 12 kilometers, I want to say, 12 to 14. It was almost double the size of this one. And now Klepa coming across the line, getting ready to start this lap. 7.004 kilometers. Just a little bit over, which, by the way, makes Spa one of the exceptions, by the way, in terms of the FIA's grading system, because to be a Class 1 circuit, for the most part, length does actually matter, and it's supposed to be between 3.5 to 7 kilometers on the dot. This is just over by 0.004, but they allowed it just because it's a historic track, and also it's not too far over. The real biggest exception is Monaco, of course, which does not follow the traditional for ratings for Class 1 circuit, but that's an essay for another time. Regardless, now we're on with Klepa. Finish off that first sector. The second sector is the technical sector of this track. So this is where a lot of the braking zones are. If you can keep flat out, you're going to want to try as much as you can to move on, which Klepa does keep that pedal on the floor into these very long sweeping corners, this little chicane almost. And now you're going to come to the bottom, into the third sector, and now this is where it basically speeds out. You make a run down to Blanchimont and the bus stop chicane. So this is just pure speed from here on out. You're going to see the Mercedes. Interesting place for the Mercedes to be. but I think it's okay for the most part. And now here comes Klepa into the bus stop chicane. What's the time going to be for the Haas driver? I definitely have a feeling it's going to be a decent one, but this has been a full lap, and we're going to see what kind of time we're looking at. Probably a 141, I would imagine. 141.911, so just on the brink of 141. GRS now coming around the circuit. We're on board with the Mercedes driver as he's coming down Blanchimont. We got a couple more drivers coming around too. Aston Martin of, I think, MKKJR, I would imagine, or that might be, yeah, that is MKKJR coming around. He's going to set a 141.088, so a fairly solid time. I do expect, however, the 140s to come into play here, but it's a good time nonetheless. And now here comes GRS looking at a 141.566. Sir Angel, can he give us a good performance as he comes through second sector right now? Now, of course, Sir Angel's a driver that had some bad luck last race as KLMP, Ritzy, they all set 142s. Alfie Free Jones comes in with a 141.103, but MKKJR still looking like the strongest time here on this lap, and so I feel is going to be the best in this one. And now Sir Angel, P10 at the moment. We're going to see what times we're looking at. Routing the final two corners, through the bus stop chicane. What's the time going to be? Peak Racing right now at the top, 141.029. Sir Angel, 141.611. So Peak Racing now holding the lead there, as One Alfa Romeo does insanely well and drops a pole-setting time. Now, Peak Racing, I do know, is pretty damn fast here. And that's going to be something to consider, especially for the other drivers as they're racing against this guy. Now, 2-bit of 141.917. PLG, the other Haas driver, we'll have to see. What can he do? Now, the 140s is a near optimal lap time. If you can get into the 140s, that is a really good spot to be. Now, of course, Peak Racing has already set the table pretty high off that 141.029, as PLG going to be capable of a 142.295. Now, Sashing, of course, in the McLaren, he's also pretty fast here, and he's someone that I feel you would want to have a little bit of caution, especially when you're racing against it. Of course, we always have the originals, like Michelle. Of course, we always have Michello, too, being one of the really competitive ones. Although he's very competitive in almost every track, so he's someone you need to watch out for sure, especially throughout this league. After all, he did win the last 3 championships in a row, so he's a three-time champion right now. Can someone dethrone him, though, for the first year? And ultimately, that is the most important question. Ferrari down the inside. There. Gets out of the way. There's a Williams up front on an outlap, I think. Can use that Williams to your advantage if you really are looking to. I think he does get a bit of tow from that. That might help his lap out a bit. And now we're going into the bus stop chicane. We're going to see what time it's going to be through the final 2 corners. Try and get a good exit. Stay in third gear. Try and maintain grip. It's not going to be a 140, but it's going to be a 141.393 and a solid time nonetheless. Is anyone going to break the 141 barrier? And now here's Vickwick in the Aston Martin. And we also have Michello coming up behind this lap too, although he's back into the pits. And so now we're going to go on board with Vickwick in the Aston Martin, see what time he's going to set. I think about 3:43 down the Kemmel Straight. Ultimately, you really have to decide how you want to tune your car, because having a good straight line tune is very efficient for the first and second sector. But you can actually lose just as much time in that second sector, because that second sector is a long sector. It's very heavily downforce based. And as you can see, that's the difference right there. We watched with guys like Klepa, who did not have to lift at all. Vickwick did have to lift. Now the question is, how much is the time he loses in, say, sector 2 going to be as much of an effect as the time he will gain in sector 1 and sector 3? That is ultimately the most important factor that you're trying to play when you're setting up a card for this track. So ultimately, you want to gain the time on 1 and 3, but you also want to make sure that you're not a complete sitting duck through Sector 2 and that you're a danger for everyone because you have to take corners marginally slower than everyone else. And now DRS Open going to be looking at a 141.005, nearly into the 140s. A good lap by Vickwick, and a nice one too, as that Aston Martin driver looks really strong this season. Definitely going to be one of the problems in Michello's attempt to keep this championship. Oh, there's a lot of problems in that one. He's got a lot of work cut out for him, so whether or not he can do it is one thing. And now Tom in the Alpine. See just what kind of time we're going to be looking at. So Vickwick right now holding the top of the leaderboard at a 141.005. 141. So those very low 141 seem to be the best times right now. Will anyone reach into the high 140s? Because if you do that, that's practically the optimal lap time that you just set here. And ultimately, that's probably everyone's goal too, is to try and set that lap time up. But between 1st to 15th, it's only about a second. Actually, that's 1st to 16th, about a second. It's a little more than the second between 1st to 16th, but still very impressive nonetheless how close the drivers in this league really are. So we can definitely expect to see some battles, as some drivers may not be good qualifiers but are really good racers, and then others may not be maybe great qualifiers but may start to fall off in the race a bit. But now here comes Tom coming around 141.66, so he just splits the field in half there and slots himself in between all that. And now we got Michello in the Red Bull. He's got a time to set. Very strong here at Spa, so especially in race pace, which I feel is definitely going to be a big deciding factor in this one. So it's just going to be a question of whether or not he can actually set a very strong lap time and possibly bring himself into the pole position. In fact, a lot of cars are out on laps right now, and a ridiculous amount of cars are out right now. Because right now we got Michello, and then of course Peak Racing out, MKK out, Alfie out, Tio out, GRS out, improves to a 141.346. Tio out, Sir Angel out, Tom out, although he's on in-laps. Some of these guys are on the in-laps right now, but the lap times are out. In fact, Michello catching up to his teammate Gandon, who's currently on an outlap. His teammate could be a good team player right now and give him a good bit of tow, which I have a feeling, considering how close these guys I've seen and how well they work together, I wouldn't be shocked if that's exactly what the plan is. Sure enough, that is the tow. Gandon going to get off the track. Michello going to be let through. And now, Michello, we're going to see what time he's going to set. It's going to be close, but I don't think it's going to be enough. I think Vickwick may still have the time. Yeah, he will. And Michello going to be a P8, 141.425. So not his strongest lap. Tio up to a 141.019. He made a big improvement there. Now he's up into P2. Peak Racing coming through the circuit did not get the improvement he wanted, so he's coming back into the pits and not happy with the lap. So unfortunate for him, but still in the top 3, which is a solid lap time nonetheless. But Vickwick seems to be the one still holding on to that lead. Will anyone challenge that 141.005? Very, very strong lap, all things considered. Near perfect. Really nothing to complain about at 141.005. Those are the type of laps you dream of in quali. And now Gandon on his lap. He's sitting at a 141.752, and so we'll probably be looking to make some improvements. His teammate just in front of him now. So now Michello going to share his tow with Gandon. And hopes that they can both at least get themselves into competitive positions. At least within the top 10 would be nice for both Red Bull drivers. So now Gandon going to have to try and get as much as he can out of the toe. It does look like Red Bull might be using, especially Gandon anyways, might be using a slightly higher downforce setup. And so that's something to consider, especially in this race. And now DRS going to be open. Looking at probably a 141. No! Gandon, a 149.61. Holy! He was flying on that lap. It did not look like that from the gap I saw. It looked like it was only going to be a 4/10 improvement, but that final sector was insane. So Gandon up to a 149.61, and that is a crazy lap. $149.61. There it is. Those are the optimal laps you're looking for, and a little bit of toe definitely helped that one out. But Gandon into pole, so one of the Red Bulls sitting at the top of the leaderboard right now. And so is anyone going to challenge his superiority? Will someone take him down with 3 minutes left on the clock? I feel everyone's going to be coming out of the pits now because everyone wants a piece of that first place. And Gandon right now is the one holding it pretty convincingly with that 149.6. So who's looking for first? I definitely think we got about 6 drivers here who could all challenge for first. Obviously Gandon right now holding that with the 149.61, but Vic Wick looking in a good spot to challenge. Tio looking in a good spot. Peak Racing is also very close. Those are probably the 4 really realistic ones, although I do think MKKJR could possibly set a really good lap too. Now it's just a question of whether or not they'll have the confidence to, and also will be able to push as much as they can out of the car to set those laps. And in that case, that is a whole different story in this one. As both Aston Martins are pretty damn close to each other, so they're going to have to make some space between each other, otherwise they might run into each other on this lap. Specifically, that is Vic Wick's job. Try and build himself up a little bit of space so he doesn't get caught up by his teammate, but the issue is there's so many cars on track and they're all so cluttered together that it's very hard to find that little bit of extra space that you may need. But it doesn't matter now. Hopefully he has enough space. Vic Wick now out on the lap. MKKJR also out on the lap. These two are going to be working to... Now, MKKJR does have an interesting thing. If he feels his lap is not going to be much of an improvement, could he theoretically slow down and give Vic Wick a tow? Yes. Yes, he could. And that's the question that will be answered soon enough. If MKKJR does not have a good lap, he most likely, and I have a feeling, will probably slow up, let his teammate get in behind, and take the tow to try and see if Vic Wick can theoretically beat the time with a tow. Because I do definitely think Vic Wick overall through the track is probably a bit faster than Gandon, but that tow was a big help for Gandon, and Gandon is no slouch either when it comes to this track. Now, Peak Racing, unfortunately, not looking like he's on much of an improvement, though. I think that 141.029 might be all he was capable of. But then again, we might see something else here. He's currently sitting at that 141.029, definitely looking for an improvement. Now, the question is how desperate do you get? Because you can be insanely desperate, but if you get very desperate, you might find yourself on the receiving end of an invalid lap time, especially if you try to cut corners or really try to gain time in unnecessary places. So it's something to consider for sure. But now here comes Vic Wick looking very fast on this lap right now. Coming around the final couple bends. We're going into the bus stop chicane. It's going to be very close now. So the question is, how's the time holding up? He's definitely up on his lap time. Now to 141.005. Is it going to be more? Is there going to be more? There is going to be more. 149.29 929 for Vickwick as he improves into the lead. Peak Racing, though, says, I'll take that, thank you, and improves right into a 148.35. So Peak Racing with an IOU right there. And there you go. 148.35 for Peak Racing. Sir Angel going to make a big improvement up to fourth, too. So, wow. The lap times. But then Alfio Free Jones, it's going to come in, and he's going to improve. 148.21. And so, just as I thought it was over with the times improving, then Alfio Free Jones takes it with a 148.21. Wow. So still the top time was stolen 4 times. Wow. Impressive. So, Alfio Free Jones in the Ferrari. Gonna take pole position with that one. And it's a 140.821, the time that he set. So, if that qualifying session is anything to go by, we have one hell of a race on our hands. And of course, the top 5 was Alfie, Peak Racing, Vickwick, Gandon, and I think Sir Angel making up that top 5. So wow, we got one hell of a race on our hands. So, that qualifying session was already pretty hyped, so let's hope that this race delivers. I'm actually having a hard time containing myself. This is going to be a good one, I have a feeling. The times are very close, and the qualifying session was hype. So let's get this race ready to go. All right, 5 red lights, and we are racing here in Spa. So, Alfio Free Jones, really good. We got a bit of moving in the pack. Alfio Free Jones remaining down the inside. Peak Racing not going to be able to make the overtake there. We got a little bit of stifling around the pack. Adrian falling a couple positions. Marino up quite a few. And now as this pack kind of falls into line right now, this is where we'll actually be able to really focus on the overtakes happening. A bit of splitting near the back. Kleppa, I think, getting unfortunate there. Peak Racing going side by side. Alfio Free Jones looking like a bit of a... stranded duck, best way to say it. As Peak Racing and Vickwick both get around. Now Vickwick holding off Alfio Free Jones. Peak Racing already making a bit of his gap there. Already making it known that Alfie can have the pole, but I can have the race win. And now Vickwick doing everything he can. is in P2 with Alfie Jones P3. And now we have Sir Angel falling behind that. And Michello, obviously really good race pace. Hasn't been the strongest in quality this season though. But he has proven that he can make up the positions when it matters in the race. And ultimately that is the most important part. The qualifying means nothing in the end in terms of points. I mean, of course it means something in terms of where you're going to start in the race. But if you feel you're confident enough to get up the field, you could very well do that. And so if Michello, that's something we're watching for. As Peak Racing really doing a good job of building up that gap already, as he's already up a second. And that's something I warned about. I knew Peak Racing was really good in quality, but his real strong suit in Spa is his race pace. He has absolutely atrocious race pace, a scary amount of race pace, and it's going to definitely make some problems, I feel, for the drivers behind because they need to keep up his pace. The leader dictates the pace of the race. And by the way, while I'm yapping, Michello does get into P5, and is now going to be chasing down the Ferrari of Alfie Jones, who's currently on the back end of Sir Angel, as both Alfa Romeos looking very strong in this race. And we could be looking at a possible Alfa Romeo 1-2 if Sir Angel can keep up with Vickwick and possibly get around. And it might come right now, side by side, down the inside. Sir Angel, Vickwick might try and switch back around. Isn't going to be able to get it, and so it's an Alfa Romeo 1-2 right now. Sir Angel going to have some work to do. Now the question is, does he try and slow down the cars behind and try and play the good game for his teammate as they can both get 1-2 and really set the Alfa Romeo up for a really good race here? But it's too early to say anything about that yet. We don't even know where Peak Racing's pace is and where it will be in, say, a couple laps' time, especially near the end of the race. Regardless, though, looking very strong. Of course, the Alfa Romeos are doing a more aggressive strategy, though, so they will have the advantage in time there, too, which might be where a bit of this gap is coming from, because most likely it looks like they will be going from the mediums to the hards, whereas I feel most drivers will probably be trying to make a hard to medium strategy. So that is a question in and of itself. Is that strategy going to work out, or will the medium to hard actually be more of a disadvantage? Because, of course, this does rely on the medium runners, aka both the Alfa Romeos, to try and at least make up a bit of a gap on the hard runners to actually try and pull ahead. Because if they can make that gap up, they will pull ahead, and then when they go on the hards, they shouldn't feel too much of the effect of the performance wear off and slower performance of those tires. But that is the mixed bag that will be this Grand Prix. And I feel a big portion of it is going to be strategy, because I feel most people did start on the hards, interestingly enough. And I do think the hards is probably a big advantage when you really think about how long you can run on said tires. But those do come with a problem, because you have to decide when you want to pit to the mediums. Because if you're on the hards for too long, you're going to bleed time to the medium runners, especially when they change to fresh hards. But you also have to consider that the tires on the medium runners will probably be more worn, especially because when you change to the mediums, they'll already be on, say, 3 or 4 laps hards. So it's going to be a bit of a back and forth, I feel, push and pull kind of race. And you're just going to be looking for the medium runners to try and pull away, and the hard runners try and push and get closer from the start. And this is some of the strategies I think we're going to be watching in this race, and we'll see how those play out. Of course, the big portion of this race will be driver skill, but strategy can play a big factor, and it may, especially if you see a safety car or any other possibilities, which in Spa, a safety car is not out of the question. But something I have noticed is how close the top 8 are now. Michello now pushing into the top 4, and Sashing trying to catch up and bring that pack up. So we're getting a pretty close top 8 right now. And then beyond that, down here we got 9th to 10th. As Tio going to get around the Mercedes of GRS. GRS now going to be under attack. MKKJR really looking for a way through. Can't seem to get it done, though. And it's got to be slightly annoying for him, but he's going to have DRS now. They both have DRS. That's a big advantage for the both of them. And now Unfortunately, GRS not really going to be given much of an opportunity there. They're going to make a bit of contact. MKKJR, he makes contact with the Mercedes, and he's into the wall. There's been an incident, and MKKJR has been spit out and into the wall. There's going to be some damage on that Aston Martin, and that may have just ruined his race. And GRS also binned it too. So both the Mercedes and Aston Martin probably have some damage, and that's going to be a bit of a problem, especially when they have to pit. Thankfully for some of these drivers, no safety car. And actually, speaking of interesting strategies, I just realized KLM riding on the softs. I wonder how that's going to work out. Is he planning on a safety car, or does he want to go soft to hard? That is going to be an interesting strategy, and I'm curious about how that one's going to play out. I feel like that could be wishful thinking, but who am I to judge? If he can gain a couple positions off of it, that will actually set him up in a good spot. And yeah, actually Tio on softs too, just in front. But yeah, as you can see, most drivers preferring the hard tire, which makes the most sense. But again, that'll be something to see. I'm curious about how that's all going to turn out in the end. And now Alfio Free Jones still on the back end of the Aston Martin. We're going to go on board. So behind the Aston Martin right now, Vickwick, you can see that field. It hasn't really spread at all. This gap has remained insanely close. And of course, Alfie does have his own frets. If you look in that rear view mirror, you can kind of see it. That is a very quick Red Bull right there. And that might be looking for an overtake too. So Alfie's got to try and stay close to the Aston Martin. If he stays close to the Aston Martin, he'll remain slipstream. And by keeping that slipstream, could put himself in a good spot to at least defend off any of Michelot's attacks. But again, that is something to consider, especially throughout this race. So a fun race nonetheless. There's been some close action. Alfio Free Jones, though, building up a bit of a gap to Michelot now. It's been a DRS train, but no overtakes have really been made. Albeit Sir Angel now might be looking side by side. He's going to pass down the inside of his teammate. Vickwick might be looking. Vickwick's going to stay behind, though. Not going to try an aggressive dive bomb too early on into this race. So right now, P1, Sir Angel currently. And we got Peak Racing just behind that with Vickwick following closely. And the field of 5 is now extended to a field of 7, as both Sashing and Ritzy are now very close to this one. So there's got to be some questions going through some of these drivers' heads, especially when it comes to many different factors. It could be tire strategy. It could be, when do I overtake? When do I take this move? Will this be a good move? Will I get any consequences from attempting this? There's going to be some definite things going through the drivers' heads right now. And I definitely think a bit of it does come down to the tire strategy, because they're probably thinking, will there be a safety car? Is it better to try and hold on to the tires as long as possible and maybe plan on a late race safety car? Could that happen? Because we do know it's not impossible, and we did see GRS and MKKJR obviously have their moment not that long ago. suppose that's going to be something to figure out. But as it looks, Pete Racing gets back around Sir Angel now. And so he's back up into P1. And 2-Bit going to get around KLM. So I'm starting to wonder if these soft tires, are doing it for KLM, or if he might be starting to feel slightly worn out from this one. Could those tires be feeling some of the effects now? Could they be falling off? Was it worth it? So I have noticed Tio also, despite gaining on 2-Bit, he's lost a lot of time to the guys in front like Gandon. And so something tells me maybe those soft tires may not be holding on as much as they thought they would. But then again, they could be conserving a little bit. Maybe the plan is to try and get onto the mediums. But the question is, can trying to keep those tires to move to the mediums also be worth the time you may have to lose to try and conserve those softs at least enough laps to at least get to, I'd say, about halfway through the race, where I expect we're probably going to see some of the pit stops really starting, maybe around lap 10, I want to say. But again, that's just going to be the situation at hand. What is the smart move here? What is the smart play? Whose strategy is going to work to an advantage? Because most are on the hards, which means that is the preferred strategy, but is that the strong strategy? Is that the one that's going to play to an advantage, or is it going to just fall into a fiddle, and instead it's just going to be the other tire compounds taking an advantage of them? So now, Slashing now, looking at the back end of that Red Bull. You can definitely read the Oracle text. In fact, really read the Oracle text. Wow, getting very close to the exhaust pipe there. And Tom P13 right now. Now Feel Free Jones gets back around Michello. Michello's still in P5. Sashing looking around both sides, takes a look to the right, takes a look to the left. Not going to be given enough passing opportunity there, but he does want Michello to know that he is in fact there, and he will be looking for a move. Alfio Free Jones looking like he fallen off a little bit. Can't keep up with the top three right now. And now Michello, of course, although a big part of that might have been the defensive move that he had to make to try and stay ahead of Michello. But the question is, can he get back into the zone with these cars in front? Because if he doesn't do that soon, he's not going to have DRS next lap. And then if he doesn't have DRS, he'll be a sitting duck on the Kemmel Straight. And that's where probably both Michello and even Sashing might have a chance to get around, if Sashing can take Michello's slipstream into that. So Alfie might be in a very interesting situation, and he is. He's down 1.4. He's in a very bad situation now. And he might even get past here, as Michello takes a look down the inside. Not going to go for it, though. Still early on in this race. We're heading to the halfway mark. But you can't really be sure if risking an overtake like that's going to be worth the trade-off. And now there you go, Alfio Free Jones getting swarmed by Sashing BRL. Ritzy also going to take down the inside. And wow. Oh, a little bit of contact though. Some wheel banging to the side pod. Lucky that didn't end up like MKKJR and GRS, but some wheel banging for sure. In the end, Ritzy gonna get ahead, but not much to show for that. Sir Angel, by the way, Vickwick up ahead. Peak Racing went into the pits, obviously. And Vickwick has overtaken Sir Angel now, who now needs to catch up, because if he lets Vickwick get too far away, Peak Racing's undercut may not work. And Peak Racing, of course, luckily finds himself just in front of the guys behind him, and so just has a little bit of clean air. So hopefully that will work to him for his strategy. But ultimately, that is going to be the question, because he is on the hards right now. Because he's obviously not going to want to get caught. He's not going to want to get caught up with the cars in front, and he can't afford to take that time out of his race. Now here we go. Well, we see some more pits. Probably not for the hard runners. Sir Angel going to stay out another lap, though, interestingly enough. Could this be a move to try and benefit teammate, or could this be a move to benefit himself? I would hope benefit himself right now, considering his teammate is not there, and he needs to. But maybe he feels comfortable on the softs. Maybe I'm going into it too hard. But you never know from here. And Marino right now, P9, currently behind the Mercedes of 2-bit, and looking for some kind of opportunity to overtake for 8th right now. This is for points at the moment. Goiko 2 Pro has retired from the session. There's been a crash, I think, or he's just retired in the pit lane. He's had enough of the race. Never mind. We are safe. He has retired in the pit lane. He has decided there's been enough of this race. And so, Marino right now, P8, gets around 2-bit. And so, this is kind of where this race is sitting right now. With Peak Racing now trying to make moves through the field as fast as possible, especially some of these slower cars, because he cannot afford to keep time back here, especially when he doesn't know. Obviously, Sir Angel did get around Vickwick too, and is now trying to build up the gap. So obviously the medium tires do feel pretty good for Sir Angel still. So maybe that's exactly what he's trying to do. And he needs to kind of get in the way of Vickwick, because if he gets in the way of that Aston Martin, that is going to benefit Peak Racing for sure, as Peak Racing going to find his way around Marino too. And now Michello, he hasn't been able to keep up with the top 3 right now. Sashing looking very fast at the moment, but even Sashing's been kind of falling off. Now the question is, can these two get back up into this race through pure pace alone? But I don't think it will happen. Sashing falling just a little bit behind, and now Vickwick going to be going down the inside. Sir Angel not going to be able to do enough to really defend it, and there really isn't much he could have done there, because the DRS advantage is insane. As Adrian's going to retire from the session, the Williams into the pits as well. So that's another driver out of this race, and deciding to forget about it. So Vickwick v Sir Angel right now for the top spot in this race. Into the bus stop chicane. Sir Angel still staying out. Is he going to try and go onto softs? Because now he's really gathering in the laps on those mediums. This is interesting. He might try and go to the softs. And speaking about that, I think most hard runners are going to be trying to go to the softs now too. So I think Peak Racing's strategy might not work out for him if everyone is in fact going to the softs, which does look to be the case. As Sir Angel gets back around Vickwick. And if anything, I think Peak Racing was more of a guinea pig for everybody. They just wanted to see what he'd do. And he went in for hards, but I really don't think it's going to be worth it in the end. And also, he's gotten himself a penalty too, which is not helping any matters, of course, for his race. So I think what was looking real good for Peak Racing right now might be looking 10 times worse. So now I think the real battle is between Sir Angel and Vickwick for the win. And they're going to have to try and debate that. Still staying out. He is for sure going to the softs now. That confirms my suspicions for sure. He will be going to the softs. As I see a car go into the pits, it's going to be the Alpine of Ritzy, who I think has decided he thinks there's enough laps that he can go on to the softs and he'll be in a good spot. So that's going to be a question to see if that will work out for most of these drivers. Now sashing Vickwick. Vickwick going to be going on the attack now. DRS open. No overtake. Doesn't need it for this overtake anyways. So Vickwick gets around there. And it's a good lap. As for position changes, Kleipa up 7 positions from his starting grid. So he's looking really strong. On the other hand, the biggest loser right now, MKKJR down 8 positions from his original. So now, Gandon, the 2 Red Bulls beside each other. PLG, PL Global. Right behind the Alpine. As Sir Angel into the pits too. I think Dattery's made a mistake because he's on a normal portion of the track. So I think Sir Angel has made a mistake at some point because he just lost a lot of time randomly. So Sir Angel into the pits now. Peak Racing is going to be promoted back to the lead of this race. Michello going to bring home the fastest lap. Tom going to get around the inside of the Haas. And now also Marino looking in this one too. He might try and send it down the outside. He's going to get the inside line to the bus stop chicane. And Denye's also here too. A little battle for 12th going on right now between these 4 drivers. And now the Haas looking around the outside, gets around the outside, almost brake checks the Alpine there. And out comes Sir Angel, who I think has lost a big portion of time. Onto the softs though. But unfortunately into this battle right now, as both the Alpines gonna make contact. Big contact, Tom out, Moreno out. Big crash, safety car, VSC. Big incident on the track. Safety car is out after that one. and Marino and Tom get into a bit of contact through Eau Rouge. I knew that was not going to work out. They both locked wheels, and it was a big wreck. I didn't see all of it, but I saw a good portion of it, and I saw the aftermath. I saw it as it came over the crest. But that was a mess. Yeah, they're going to be cleaning carbon fiber off. They're going to be finding carbon fiber pieces on the track once they set the track up for next year's F1 Grand Prix. They're still going to be finding those carbon fiber pieces, let me tell you. So, well, this is basically a wake-up call for everybody if they really want to go in and get new tires, because what's that? There's not really much point in waiting now. Might as well go on softs now. This is a free pit stop. Take it. I'm feeling some of the other cars will probably come in after. Obviously, they don't want to double stack with their teammates. But, yeah. Just a little mess of carbon fiber there over the crest. That was a hell of a crash. Wow. Expecting to see some fireworks from that one. Both those F1 cars are a write-off now. That's all I'll say. They're both a write-off. There is no restoring those things. No way. And Angel, unfortunately, continuing his luck with tires, by the way. As I'm getting some second-hand info. He had a puncture. So, yeah. Angel's luck with tires. Really, not going well, to put it bluntly. But thank God he had the safety car. That's going to save him a bit of time. So, that's lucky. But yeah, so Gandon now, I think, going to be leading the safety car restart, unless, of course, he goes in this lap, which I do think a couple drivers might be going in this one to change tires. But then again, what do I know? I do think this race will definitely be restarting on lap 18, though. And so, if I was Gandon, I was going to say, if I was Gandon, I probably would have stayed out. My brain completely farted there. But yeah, because there's really not much of a point, because you go to the softs, you're going to be basically demoted back to the back of the grid, so there's really no point doing it. Now, you just kind of have to hope those mediums will hold off, and if worse comes to worse, you know Michello's on the softs, so you have a teammate behind who definitely has good tires, and you're just going to try and hope on that. And if you can try and hold off the cars ahead. I know Gandon's a good team player, and that's probably something that you'll plan to do, so we'll just see if it works out. What did I say, though? I was literally talking about this at the beginning of the race. I have a feeling some people might be banking on a late race safety car. Of course, all the strategies basically played out before that happened. But almost everyone's on the softs now, so what did I say? Safety car, sure enough, was the catalyst. And basically everyone's on the softs. A couple on the mediums. Some have changed to mediums, which is interesting. Now, part of that could be to match the tire strategy, or of course, the guys starting on mediums, I think, are part of the group that also started on soft tires, and as such, they may not have had another pair ready to go. So now race is back on. Gandon with the restart. Vickwick going to be looking to try and get close into this one. And Gandon going to go way wide. He makes a big mistake there. Overset. Oh, out-brakes himself. And he's going to let Vickwick and BRL Ritzy and the other Alpine through. And now Gandon going to be under attack by Peak Racing down this straight. Clouds are forming over the track. We might have some possible rain on the forecast anyways, but it's definitely cloudy. And now Peak Racing going to get around Gandon down the inside. Peak Racing does the job. Michello now going to get around his teammate. Gandon, unfortunately, just going to be a sitting duck and fall a bunch of places, as that big mistake did not help him and basically messed up the next few portions of his corner sectors with the passes. As KLM's out, too. AlphaTauri is out of the Grand Prix. Just retired on his own accord, though. On track, though, interestingly enough. And Tubik going to be given a 3-second penalty for multiple warnings. Peak Racing, though, that big penalty not helping any matters in his race. And Vickwick now looking like he has the confidence to really push that car ahead and try and bring himself a P1 here. Peak Racing looking to try and get around. He needs to get around because he cannot waste his time behind. He has a 3-second penalty. He can't afford to keep that penalty there. At least I think it's a 3-second. Actually, let me check. Yeah, it is a 3-second. So he does have a 3-second penalty. He needs to get around. Vickwick going to set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Michello going to look down the inside there, at least take a little look there, little stab at it, just kind of see if he can poke his front end there. Not going to do much of it, of course, but, you know, it's just a little look-see. See if they'll react. Regardless, BRL Ritzy is actually doing a good job. It is helping Vickwick, though, because Peak Racing is struggling to get by him. And Peak Racing, of course, if he can't get by Ritzy, he also has another threat to worry about, and that's the Red Bull behind him, Michello. And so he just really cannot afford to waste time here. This is not helping Peak Racing's race at all, as we're going to go on board with Michello right now. Tubik going to be given another 3-second time penalty. He's getting a little too noted with the stewards there, making a few too many mistakes and really flirting with the track limits just a little too much. And now Vickwick in the position now. 3 laps left of the Grand Prix. DRS enabled. This is the battle. this is how it stands. Sir Angel looking at the fastest lap time, looking like he is the fastest man on track at the current moment, but unfortunately, it's just not in the position, I think, to really do much in this race. This has been a nightmare race, by the way, for Williams and AlphaTauri, who have lost both their drivers. We're going to go free abreast here. This might get very risky. Alfa Romeo, Peak Racing going to be able to hold it off and get BRL Ritzy. But wow, that was a hard-fought situation there, and that could have ended very badly for all drivers involved. Free abreast through Kemmel straight into that corner is not a risk that I feel you really want to be willing to take, but it's the final laps of the race, so all bets are off now. You have to be willing to take those risks. You have to feel confident that I'm not going to crash, I'm not going to get into an issue, I'm not going to make a big mistake. You have to feel that way. As I think 2-Bit going to make something happen to 2-Bit. There's a Mercedes in the wall, missing a front wing. So I was not lying about that. And now, GRS on Gandon. Gandon gets around the Aston Martin. Gandon, of course, been struggling ever since he decided to not change. And he's down to 11th right now. So this race has not been working out for him, all things considered. And the strategy choice to stay on the mediums did not pay off. I thought it would have, but, or at least he would have been a little more helpful to even Michel's races. Denine getting into a bit of a risky situation here with both the Haas's almost closing in the door to him. He has nowhere to go. He's getting basically pushed by both sides. Denine gets through though. Somehow it ends safe. 2-Bit retiring from the session. The Mercedes of GRS trying to get around that Haas. And now we got a big move. Gandon down the inside, looking down the inside. Gets the move done. I'm trying to pick. I'm making so many misinputs right now in this battle because there's so much going on in a close radius right now. And now Klepa, we got PL Global on the back of Denine. He's going to go side by side. DRS open. Going to finesse it off of Denine. And now Denine going to be under attack. He's got both Haas's going side by side. Haas's are side by side. Who's going to get the inside? It's going to be Klepa. Now both Haas's are racing each other. One on medium, one on hard, one on soft. Sorry. And now Denine going to be let back through. Denine almost getting a little bit there. Gets a little squirrely there. And now he's looking down the inside of the other Haas, PLG. We've got a little bit of a war going on right now between these 6 cars. And now there's going to be a little bit of a wall hit there by GRS as he makes a bit of contact. And it's a mess in the midfield right now, let me tell you. That's a good name for a song, by the way. I should make an album. I should make an HRL album called Mess in the Midfield. Marketing! Some great marketing, Mess in the Midfield. But now Michello on the back end of Peak Racing. We're back up into this front battle for P2. Of course, Vickwick is off. He's finally got it. He's done more than enough. Gets around Gandon. An opportunist overtake, too, on Gandon's mistake. And gets through, and now builds up that gap as he's almost 3 seconds ahead. So for Vickwick, this race is a dream come true, and the safety car worked perfectly for him. So now it's Michello versus Peak Racing. Still in this battle, Michello going to go side by side. Peak Racing going to be a sitting duck. The Ferrari's going to try around the grass there. That could have ended bad. Peak Racing is unfortunately not going to be able to gain many more positions off of this. And now he's going to get passed by both Michello and Alfie Jones. It was a 3-second penalty too. He's going to lose 2 more positions. And so what was looking like such a good race for Alfa Romeo just did not work out for the both of them. And then the strategy just did not play out perfectly for Peak Racing. So unfortunately, the strategy just was not Peak Racing. And while he did definitely have the pace to win this race, it was not to be. And I think the strategy played a big part in that one. Regardless now, Michello P2, Alfie Jones in P3, but Vickwick, he's got more than enough of a gap, albeit Michello closing it a little bit. But in the end, I think it's come down now as we're coming through the final straight, through Blanchimont. Vickwick looking really nice on the throttle, looking very comfortable, and I think he's done everything he needed to. He played the safety car restart perfectly, got the opportunist overtake on Gandon, and then basically ran away from everyone for the final 5 laps. So here we go now, rounding the final 2 bends. Vikwick bringing home the victory here in Belgium. There it is. Vikwick crosses the line. Brings home a nice P1 as he, I think, builds up that championship lead in this race. Michello, P2, all the drivers coming in now. MKKJR, the last to come in. And so the top 3 is Vikwick, Michello, Alfie Ofri Jones, Peak Racing going to be demoted to 6th, Sir Angel 5th, Ritzy 4th, the 9 7th, Klepa 8th, Gandon 9th, Tio 10th, PLG 11th, Sashing 12th, 13th is GRS, and MKKJR crashes across the line, and that's going to be P13 for the Aston Martin driver. And so, Vikwick gonna be given the win. So, there it is. That is your finishing order. Vikwick bringing a solid portion of points in this race and a P1 to count. Second place, Michello made one hell of a recovery drive and got himself up from 8th to 2nd. Alfie Ofri Jones unfortunately going to lose pole, but still finishes P3 in an okay race. BRL Ritzy makes a big move up the field, up from P10 to 4th. Sir Angel, 5th. 6th is Peak Racing, who really did not have a good race today. 7th, the 9, who's made a good recovery. Klepa, who's made an insane recovery from 18th to 8th. Gandon, 9th. Tio, 10th. PLG 11th, 12th Sashing, 13th MKKJR, GRS 14, and all the DNFers 2-bit, KLMP, Tom, Marino, Adrian, and Goico. So, I'm your host, Biggie Smoke. That was one hell of a race in Belgium, and we'll see you guys soon as the championship battle continues in HRL. Bye for now.